Well, today I'm going to be talking about something that is very important. And you know, this is something that certainly is spiritual because it has spiritual ramifications, and yet there is physical evidence for me to point to. It's a fascinating subject. It's fascinating, I believe, because it proves what the Bible says is 100% correct. Now, I have been interested as I've traveled around the United States and Canada in what I call, and what I'm going to be writing about, in fact, in the future, so be looking for the book, the temples of the Illuminati. The temples of the Illuminati. Now, imagine, if you will, this evil, shrewd, calculating being named Satan, or Lucifer. And he has been given, for a short time, great power on this planet. Now, it is circumscribed. It is held in check by God. And the devil can do almost anything to anyone except God's people. He's given great rights and privileges with this, we might say, contract with God. But it is only God's people that he is very restricted about. That's why when you turn to the book of Job, he literally had to go bow down before the great God and try to negotiate a little deal. Give me a little bit of time with Job. Take away that hedge. I'll show you something. You see, a boast. Well, that didn't work. But I want you to know that when you feel oppressed sometime, and people have told me they've got into certain things or gone certain places, talked to certain people, maybe New Agers or occultists or people involved in things, and they had a sense of oppression. You know, as a Christian, you are totally protected. It doesn't mean now that you should seek those occasions out or go toward those things or read occult literature for pleasure and enjoyment. No. It simply means that you have the assurance that God is always in control. But imagine the rest of the world unwittingly being the servant of the devil, and yet not even believing that the devil exists. Now that really is a problem for them. It really is. They're welded, they're melded, they're malleable like clay. And they don't even know what's happening to them. And this is exactly what it says in the book of Daniel will occur in the last days. It says that many will be tried in the fire, Daniel 12:10. And the wicked will do wickedly, but none of the wicked will understand. Do you really think the people of the United States and Canada knew what was going on in those Los Angeles riots? Oh, they saw the surface. They saw a jury that may well have been mixed up, but had these strict rules of law to go with. They thought they were doing what was right. Didn't appear to me to be doing what was right, but they thought it was based on the laws that they were given to go by. And then you had these people who thought this was their license to go out and burn and kill. But did any of them really understand what they were doing and why they were doing it? I know they did not, because they didn't understand the spiritual principles of life that only a Christian can understand, because the natural person does not discern or understand the things of God. It's an impossibility. You know, I can joke about a Boris Yeltsin or a Comrade Gorbachev. There may be many things, and I'm sure they're much more intelligent than I was kidding about them. But certainly the spiritual things they know nothing about, because they both have professed that they do not know Jesus Christ as Lord. Only the Christian will know these things. And in Daniel 12:10, it in fact says, the wise shall understand. Isn't that great? You'll understand things. Now, I've been going around the United States, and I've been looking about what's going on in the world, And there's something that's happening, physical evidences of a massive conspiracy of the devil right here on this planet. And these are literally structures, temples, if you will, killing fields that are being put up around this globe. And you know what? The world doesn't even know they're there for. But I believe that you're going to understand the significance. Now, you have to understand something. If I gave you a piece of land and said, here's the deed, and I told you, you can have all the money in the world to build whatever you want, you'd build something to suit your taste, wouldn't you? Oh, you'd get the finest architects in the world, and you would pay them the right amount of money, and you would inspire them to build the structures, the edifices, the complexes that you want to see in your imagination. Would you not? That would be your right and your privilege. You've got the money, you've got the professional architects, the builders, the land. Why not? That's what the devil has. He's got the money, he's got the land, and he certainly has plenty of professionals. Oh, he's got architects with licenses, engineers, professional engineers. He's got builders. He's got the whole world. Why would he not construct buildings and temples and places that would please him? And you know what? That's what he done. And I'm going to give you some evidences of that today. Now, why would I want to give you evidences of these things? I want you to understand in advance. It's not because I want to glorify the devil. I want to expose him. Ephesians 5:11 says, I have no part with the works of darkness, but rather reprove them. But I do want you to understand something. The devil is real. He has a people. They are planning big things. And then I want you to understand that the Bible said these things would occur. It said that in the last days, all the world shall worship the beast, except those whose names are written in the book of life. It even says that the temple itself in Jerusalem will be rebuilt. Now, I believe a great temple will be built someday, maybe not too long from now, by Jesus Christ. But that temple that's going to be rebuilt, there's going to be an evil event occur. A man will go in and declare that he is God. In a sense, that will be a temple of the Illuminati until Jesus comes and puts things right. Now, around the world today, there are other temples being built, other places, other money being spent by the devil for his joy and his satisfaction. This is his world. Let him have it for a while, for a short space. And you know what? I think the reason he's doing it so much now is because the Bible said in Revelation he knows his time is short. He's furious. He knows it. The space of time is there. He better move. And he's putting it all together in the economic realm and the government realm. That's why Gorbachev this week in Fulton, Missouri, called for a global government. A global government. Now, if you read about the fact that Bible prophecy, if you read Midnight Call 5 years ago, and if somebody like Arno Froza had said, someday, world leaders will all call en masse for a global government, you could have given that issue of Midnight Call, and I'm sure Arno had those issues, to your next-door neighbor to say, oh, man, this guy's a wacko. Nobody would ever do that. Why? You know, I was on talk shows, secular and some Christian, when my first book came out, Dark Secrets of the New Age. They said, this is crazy. And I talked about a new world order. I remember about 3 years ago, before the term got big. And I remember one talk show host saying, listen, the reason what you're saying is insane, Texe Mars, is because the people of the United States would never go along with the New World Order. They'd never do it. They'd never give up their independence and sovereignty. No way. And I said, yes, and it's going to be the United Nations. Oh, that United Nations, that's a flop. It's dead. It's gone with. I mean, that's out of the picture. It's nothing. And I would say, well, yes, and then the Pope. We're going to have a strengthening. Oh, the Pope! Nobody listens to the Pope anymore. The Catholic Church is dead. And, you know, they just laughed at you. Oh, they don't laugh anymore. But you know what? Something's very funny. Before, they said nobody would go along with a global government, with a new world order. Everybody would fight it. The talk show host would even tell me I'd be against that. And now you know what they say, Texe? What's wrong with this? I mean, everybody should be for this. I mean, what's wrong with you crazy Christians? This is a good idea. Don't you understand we can have world peace and harmony and love and all the religions come together? Why are you the troublemakers of the earth? That's what they tell me. One talk show host, this is the truth, I said, my friend, you're the guy that told me just a few years ago on this very show this would never come about. You said Americans wouldn't put up with it, and now you're saying, what's wrong with you? It's a great idea. Why have you changed? I haven't changed. Well, the world is being organized for the last days. Let me give you some evidence of that. And by the way, I want you to know that the world, according to Satan, is an occult, magical world. He doesn't have any real power except what little miraculous powers God allows him for a short space. And so he has to fool people into believing that they're creating magic. Do it by the numbers, do it by the colors, do it according to the right times, the calendar, and all of that. And you'll have power, magic. I love it so much. People say, how do you pray? I just say, just talk to Jesus. You don't need a formula. One woman came up to me and said, you know, I'd like to witness to people. And pretty soon we're supposed to have evangelism explosion classes in the church. And when I take those classes, then I'll know how to do it. You don't need classes. My goodness. Oh, they'll probably ruin you. That's right. You'll worry. Am I saying it according to this page 28 or something? I mean, don't worry about the... See, isn't it wonderful? You don't need a formula. You don't need a ritual. But you got the whole power of the universe in your heart. It's just so incredible. It really is. Somebody, not too long ago, they said, but Texe, I know that you've been criticizing AA programs. Don't you realize that the churches can't help people? The Bible can't help, but AA can help them. I said, well, how about God? Oh, they all tried Jesus Christ on their own, but he can't help them. They've got to have 12 steps. I said, but my friend, are you a Christian? Oh, yes. Do you believe in Jesus Christ? Oh, yes. Hey, he's God. Don't you? Have you missed the big picture here or something somewhere along the way? He's God. He can't keep you sober. You ain't got a chance. Oh, people are really mixed up, aren't they? Anyway, 12 steps. I've heard about the one step. You know, when you just take one step toward Jesus, and then you don't even finish it, do you? He grabs you, latches on to you, and that's it. You're there. Well, in any case, the physical evidences of a massive conspiracy. Let's look at them. Oh, this universe is magical, the devil says. Well, I'm going to take you on a little tour, a little magical journey. We're going to see what the old devil is trying to do here. First of all, I mentioned the other night the Great American Pyramid. Oh, it's built down in Memphis. And you know what? It's built also as a monument to Elvis. Yeah, pastor told me there, he said, you know, he's from Memphis. That's where Graceland is. He said, Texe, this pastor said, he said, here in Memphis, Elvis is alive, but God is dead. Elvis is alive, but God is dead. And you know, he wasn't smiling when he told me that. He was hurt in his heart for the people of his city. They say at the Great American Pyramid, when it's fully open, they have the theme park there. You're going to be able to get the Egyptian experience. I think I'll pass it up. How about you? I think I might go with Orno and get the Jerusalem experience, you know? But anyway, the people behind this, one of them is a man named Sidney Schlanker. Now, he was the owner of the professional basketball team. I think it was the Denver Nuggets. Very rich man. Savings and loan artist. One of those guys, you know. You've heard about them. Yes. And then the other guy behind this was a man named Isaac Tigret. The guy that I told you went over to Egypt and bribed a guard to let him stay in the great chamber of the Pharaoh or the king. And there in the pitch darkness of night, it always happens at midnight according to the devil's ritual, the flashing light of illumination hit him, and a voice said, Isaac Tegret, you will build a pyramid like this in the U.S. So he came over, and right there in the Bible Belt, Memphis, Tennessee, they built a great pyramid, gleaming. I mean, it's incredible, right on the Mississippi, just like the one that's over, next to the river there, the Pyramid of Giza in Egypt, sort of the sister cities. And there's even the Memphis, right? Memphis, Egypt. Here we have Memphis, Tennessee, the great American pyramid. I told you also about the pouch that was found inside the metal box that was welded to the apex, and it turned out to be a crystal skull. And in my book, New Age Cults and Religions, I talk about a certain New Age cult called the Crystal Skull Society. So you may want to look into that and see what that's all about. Pyramids are a favorite subject for the devil. He seems to love them. You see, because he was known by the pagans and is becoming known again as the great god of light, the sun god, the pyramid is the perfect building. All of the surfaces are exposed. It goes out like this, and they're all exposed to the sun. And the only thing that's missing is the capstone. And there we have great counterfeit. Jesus is the cornerstone, the devil is the capstone. The only question is, what is he the capstone of? After you've constructed this incredible monument to evil, it'll be completed all right with the capstone. Interestingly enough, there's a new mint building down in Fort Worth, Texas. High-tech equipment. They say it's going to be printing the new money. Now, the Federal Reserve wanted us to have the new money last year. This was in the Associated Press, many other newspaper sources. And they wanted to have a new money that would be a different size in the United States now. New size and a different color. Now, they have their reasons for this, but I don't have time to talk about it today. But in any case, they put it off for a while because so many people wrote and they were concerned that this was the beginning of a change that would finally result in a world currency. So they've held it off for a while, and they've only made very minute changes. In the $50 and $100 bills, later they're going to go down to the 20, the 10, the 5, and the 1, and so forth. But so it is so interesting, this new mint building has been built for this new money. It is built in the form of a circle. But in the middle of the circle is a giant pyramid. The pyramid and the circle. Now, the triangle or the pyramid and the circle has always been an occultic symbol. It is what it really involves, and you can read about this in my book, Mystery Mark of the New Age, is the satanic circle. Meaning, basically, that the devil in his boast is an eternal creature. He will reign forever. His circle is unbroken. And in the midst of that is the unholy trinity of the pagan gods. In Egypt, they were Osiris, Isis, Horus. Horus is the nice fella or spirit that you see depicted on the dollar bill. The all-seeing eye, that was Horus, the sun. He really is the Antichrist. He symbolizes the sun, S-O-N, as well as the sun, S-U-N. Horus, the warlord. The sun, the Christ figure of occultism. That's what it's all about. So we have the new mint. Now, in Kalamazoo, Michigan, see, we're just traveling here. Kalamazoo, Michigan, there's a very interesting building. A man named John G. Fetzer spent $154 million. Money that Arno Frosa could have used to great effect in midnight call ministries. Maybe even a percentage of that. Isn't it amazing how much money the devil has? They say in Jimmy Swiggert's biggest year, $150 million. But John Fetzer just takes $154 million and says, whoop, here it is. And they built this incredible triangle-shaped building for the devil, really, in Kalamazoo. Now, it is the headquarters of New Age holistic health research. Fetzer says that he wants to establish a research center where the greatest minds in the world could find out how the human mind can tap into the energy powers that are out there, the force. They tell me, I have not counted them, but a gentleman told me that he read in a local newspaper there that I am sure simply by coincidence, it has nothing to do with the devil, but there are exactly 666 windows on the exterior of that building. I do know I have pictures of the huge crystal that sits right in the very middle of that triangle building. John Fetzer, by the way, owned the Detroit Tigers baseball team. He's a communications baron, one of the pioneers of the communications industry, a very, very dedicated New Age believer. My friends, they have the money of this planet. But we're not finished. Let's run over to Paris. Let's fly over to Paris. Now, I was in Europe some years ago, and I visited the Louvre Museum. Have any of you visited the Louvre? Did you hold up your hands, the Louvre? Okay, several. There, if you'll remember, were some of the greatest paintings in the world. I mean, the Mona Lisa, Michelangelo's work. I mean, it's just incredible what you will find in that museum. Now, it's an old, ornate museum, sort of Louis XIV style. But why would suddenly they decide that right in the front of the building, in fact, it is the sort of the entrance, they would construct a huge crystal glass pyramid? Egyptian. You have to go through it. And by the way, it is a Freemason exhibit hall. That's what Francois Mitterrand, the president of France, decided to build with the taxpayers' money. This huge Masonic exhibit hall that's in the shape of a pyramid. Now, for some strange reason, the architect just made it with 666 triangle-shaped panes of glass. Totally, a coincidence. There it sits. You want to visit the Louvre Museum, as millions do each year? Okay, go through this pyramid. I guess you'll get the powers as you go through. Maybe you'll appreciate the art better. I don't know. As you walk through this giant pyramid. Isn't that amazing? Doesn't it sort of pique your interest? Is that the reason why Francois Mitterrand, a man who has his hands on the button, he could probably kill half the United States if he had a mind to, because they have the nuclear submarines and such, the striking force of the French military. He goes, however, once each year to a special place, to a sacred mountain there in France. And he sits lotus-legged, like the Hindu gurus, and he beats with sticks to conjure up the spirits of the earth. Now, I document this in my book, Millennium. Can you imagine? I mean, when we see him on TV, he has a nice suit. He's standing there with the G7, the Canadian Prime Minister, and Bush, and, the Prime Minister from Japan. They all look so distinguished. Can you imagine this man sitting like a Hindu guru beating sticks on top of a sacred mountain to conjure up the spirits? But he does. Oh, this world is much stranger than you and I can imagine, unless you've read Bible prophecy. Then you know it's strange. But there are answers for these strange things if you read Bible prophecy. Well, pyramids, very interesting. We're going to be offering a book in our ministry in a couple of months, maybe July, I think it is, from a man who's done much research, very documented, showing the connections of the Jehovah's Witnesses to Freemasonry. Interestingly enough, Mr. Russell, who founded the Jehovah's Witnesses, was very big on pyramids. In fact, his tomb is shaped like a pyramid. I wonder if there's any connection with the fact that the Jehovah's Witnesses say that Jesus really was just Michael the Archangel. Think there could be a connection with the pyramid philosophy and those kinds of doctrines? You remember J.Z. Knight, the housewife in Seattle? She talked to Ramtha, the 35,000-year-old man, and everybody from Linda Evans, the Crystal on Dynasty and all of that, believed in her. Ramtha spoke through her, you know, and he told everybody they were a god. He even said, in Lucifer lies divinity. Very mixed up spirit. Probably very senile in his 35,000 years. I don't know. But in any case, she said that Ramtha first came to her when she and her husband had learned about pyramid powers, and they began to make cardboard pyramids and place them around their house. And it was at that moment, and you know, I don't believe a lot of what J.Z. Knight says, but she said it was at that moment that suddenly this spirit appeared and said, I'm the warrior, Ramtha. And I'll tell you what, if you want to go ahead and believe in this kind of stuff, the devil would like you to, pyramid powers, and make little cardboard pyramids, put them around your house, I bet he might just come to you too. I was on an aircraft, did a trip, and it was really one of the enlightening, I was illuminated on this aircraft trip because I sit next to an elementary school art teacher. This is honestly the truth. I had my Bible with me. I had not read the Bible, I just had it with me, and she noticed it. And that just made her go off into a rampage. I had flown to Los Angeles to be on a television program when I was flying home. I think it was about there were only two trips that I can remember that Wanda hasn't gone with me, of all of our dozens and dozens and dozens of trips. Each time, God sent the strangest people to sit by me. This lady was an elementary school teacher, and she saw this Bible, and she said, are you a Christian? I said, yes. Thought I would have a chance to witness. And she said, well, I hope you're not like Billy Graham and Jerry Falwell. Well, see, they only know two people, these New Agers. They have never heard of anybody else, just Jerry Falwell and Billy Graham. Well, at least that was a few years ago. And I said, well, what do you mean? She says, well, I'll tell you this. She said, if those two are going to be in heaven, I'd much rather be in hell. And I said, well, are you a Christian? She said, I'm what you would call New Age. And I said, how interesting. I said, I've written a book on the New Age. She said, really? And, you know, she thought she and I would get along famously at that point. Maybe I was a New Age Christian, you know? Interpreted the Bible a little differently. And I said, yes. And I told her about dark secrets of the New Age. Well, her face grew very grim, and the rest of the trip was very unpleasant. But I said to her, well, now as a New Ager, you do believe in a divine force. Now, what is your God exactly? Because I know of how many, you know, you can have millions of gods and goddesses, or you can worship yourself. And her face just seemed to twinkle. And it seemed that she became ecstatic. And she said to me, well, my God is a goddess. Her name is Kuan Yin, the Chinese river goddess. And I said, do you pray or meditate to this divine being? She said, yes, I meditate and I visualize all the time. And then she says, now Kuan Yin has not yet appeared to me, but I'm praying that she will. And again, I didn't fully have the presence of mind, although I did witness to her. My response to her should have been at that time, Kuan Yin will appear. You can count on it. She'll appear. You keep visualizing her, meditating, invoking her name. She'll come. Or I should say, something looking like Kuan Yin will come into your life. The real problem is, will she ever leave? Well, pyramids. And then we go to Kansas City, Missouri. Any Missourians here? A lot of people from the RLDS Church, the Reorganized Church of Latter-day Saints, the Reorganized Mormons, have been writing to me recently. They've sent me some much interesting material. That branch, Mormonism itself, and you can read about the Mormon Church in my book, New Age Cults and Religions, and there are other good books, God Makers and others. And also I talk about the RLDS Church that's headquartered in Independence, Missouri. Totally New Age, thoroughly New Age, RLDS. They are building a building. In fact, I think it may already be finished by now. It's an incredible building. It's a spiral to the sky. Looks just like a Babylonian ziggurat. Just if you want to know what the Tower of Babel looked like, it's in suburban Kansas City, Missouri. Built there by this Mormon group, the Reorganized Mormons. The spiral to the stars by this New Age group. It's an amazing building. A building that is also amazing is in Washington, D.C., the House of the Temple of Freemasonry. Oh, go there. Visit it. Pray first. You'll see the serpents on the wall. You'll see the triangle with the sunburst in it. You'll see a statue right as you walk up the steps to it, a giant statue of the goddess on your right-hand side. Oh, that's Freemasonry, my friends. Ask about it when you're there. Ask them why they have satanic pentagrams. Ask about those serpents on the wall. Ask them about the sun signs that they have. What does it all mean? Maybe they'll tell you, and maybe they won't. You know, if you want to know of a place that has evidence, physical evidence of the devil's handiwork, you might go to the moon. You remember the Apollo moonshot? When those astronauts landed on the moon? Hey, it wasn't called Apollo for nothing. Excuse my Texan. Oh, no. You see, Apollo was the great sun god of the Greeks. Now, the Bible says that one of the names, in Revelation you learn, that one of the names for the devil is what? Apollyon. Oh, yes. That is a combination of Apollo and the Egyptian god On, or Osiris. So Apollyon. It's all the same sun god by various names. Apollo. By the way, I showed you a book the other night about Solar Man. The man who's the director of the World Federalists, he's wrote a book called Solar Man. We're going into the solar age. Man will become divine. We'll have a world government, etc. That was published by Apollo Books. The other night I saw an interesting program on PBS called The Art of the Third Reich. Did you know that Hitler, as you know, had his own architect, Speer, and he had others as well, and they had designed entire cities. When they took over the world, basically, they were going to have these incredible monumental edifices, these cities, I mean, incredible buildings and thoroughfares and new highways. It was going to be massive and magnificent. And you know, there in Nuremberg, it was going to be the capital. And he had designed the very focal center. What would it be? Would it be some kind of an image of the Aryan race, the Teutonic race, some German great, maybe, you know, Frederick the Great or whatever? Oh, no. It was going to be a statue of Apollo. Apollo, the sun god. Oh, the devil always is the same, isn't he? You know, he really can't change. That old fella, his fate is sealed, my friend. He stays the same no matter how much he convinces the lost that he's changing, that the evolution process itself. He stays the same old devil or dragon or serpent. But what happened in that moonshot was that astronaut Buzz Aldrin put something there. He had a Masonic ring, and he had a little Masonic ceremony there. Oh, you didn't see it on TV, did you? You see, C. Fred Kleineck, 33rd degree Mason, and Sovereign Grand Commander of Freemasonry, was head of NASA. And what they deposited there was a little flag. We thought they were claiming the moon for the planet Earth, or for the United States, but he put, because he was a Mason himself, a small flag that has the image of the double-headed eagle of Freemasonry. That double-headed eagle is also the heraldry emblem of the House of Habsburg. And interestingly enough, I read Midnight Call magazine. I think it was this month or last month, or no, May issue. Oh, Boris Yeltsin. There he is considering, and I think they will, bring back the dynasty emblem of the czars. And what is it? Why? The double-headed eagle. Why double-headed? Oh, my friends, the devil just doesn't look one way. He's two-faced. He's two-faced. And we can talk more about what the meaning is of the double-headed eagle. But what it really is, if you want to know, is study the martial arts and you'll see the yin-yang sign. Light and dark. The devil says that he is going to reconcile both the light and the dark and bring it all together as one. He is going to make heaven into hell and hell into heaven and become king of all. Well, it's idle boast. But that's why they have the double-headed eagle. God is symbolized in the Bible as an eagle in some instances. So the devil says, I'm the eagle, the double-headed eagle, and I'm going to have both heaven and hell someday. There you have the double-headed eagle of Freemasonry. Well, I think all of these things are amazing, but the most amazing thing to me occurred, and I'm going to have to move very fast, but I want you to know that it occurred in Nashville, Tennessee. Now, I mentioned this in passing when I spoke at the church this last Sunday. I know this had to be God leading me and Wanda to be there. I did not realize when I went to Nashville about a year and a half ago that they had something there that was so occultic that it boggled my imagination. That is the capital, you might say, of the Southern Baptist denomination. That's where they have their headquarters in Nashville. I called up the folks at the Southern Baptist Convention, and what I'm going to tell you is something that they really could care less about. They knew nothing about, they weren't concerned about it, but I understand that. That's the way the world is, my friend. They have there the Parthenon. It was built about 100 years ago when they had a centennial celebration. The Parthenon. That Parthenon is built to within 1/8 of an inch to the exact measurements of the great Parthenon that is now in ruins in Greece. There they worshiped Apollo and Zeus, the devil. And there they worshiped Athena, the goddess. Mystery Babylon, the woman, the harlot. What I didn't know when I went to Nashville, we were just going on a little 3-day vacation. What I didn't know was that for 7 long years, certain people, very influential in that city, had commissioned an artist to build a huge statue to Athena. And I visited that day in the Parthenon. They told me there had been thousands of visitors that day. In fact, they had a huge festival in the park there. But for some reason, and I believe it was God, there was not anybody there but Wanda and I when we walked in the door. And the security guard saw us, and I think he was bored. He was the chief security guard, and he came up and said, "Where are you people from?" And I said, "There's nobody here." I would think, by the way, they had the statue veil, the gauze, the linen cloth, or whatever was over her. You could not see the statue. I didn't even know she was in there, in the sanctuary. And he began to talk to us, and I told him where we were from and such. And I said, "Where are all the people? I would have thought this place would have been packed." He says, "You know, all day long it's been packed. I don't know what happened. It's like they just cleared out." Well, I believe it was because God wanted us to talk to that man. Because he said, "Did you know that they're going to unveil this very week the statue of Athena right here?" I said, "No." He said, "Yes." He said, "And since there's nobody around and it's so quiet, would you like to go behind the linen and meet the artist himself, the sculptor?" I said, "Yes." So he took us around and he raised back the linen and he said, "Mr. Leclerc, I have 2 people here. Do you have just a few minutes to talk to this gentleman?" And he said, "Okay." And he came up to meet me and he had assistants working. And he said, "Would you like to see my work of art?" He said, "I spent 7 years of my life." And I looked and it was 42 feet tall. It was an incredible piece of sculpture. And I saw the cobra serpent snakes and all of the astrological symbols. And I saw the hideous horned devil on her breast. And I almost fell over. I was so revolted by that image, the image of the beast. And I said to him, "What is this for?" He said, "It completes this temple. We're going to have the unveiling." He said the king of Greece is going to be here, the governor, the mayor, all of the people will be here for the big celebration for Athena, the goddess. And you know, my friends, and I'll end with this, that's not the only goddess in America. There is a greater goddess than even Athena. She sits in the harbor of New York City. She is liberty herself. In fact, her formal title, she was sculpted by a man named Auguste, I think it is, Frederick Bartholdi, the Frenchman, a Mason. This was a Masonic gift to America. And Mr. Bartholdi entitled his work of art, "Liberty Enlightening the World." In her hand she has a torch, the light. She has the sun rays around her head. She is the mistress of Satan himself. Liberty enlightening the world. She is the goddess of America. And we worship that symbol of Freemasonry and paganism devoutly here in this country. I have a book, very interesting book, that talks about this, and I've read many others, but this one is very interesting because it has many ancient postcards and talks about the construction, and you can see so many various ways in which liberty has been depicted. And these are actual postcards that they've had. This was the Saturday Evening Post, for example, that had a cover of her, "Liberty Enlightening the World," put there by the Freemasons. And it says here in this book, doesn't make it big, this is not a Christian expose book, this is something, just for souvenir collectors. It says here that this statue symbolizes the Masonic credo, or motto, which says this, quote, "The great architect of the universe," not Jesus, by the way, but the great architect of the universe has given the sun, S-U-N, to the world to enlighten it and liberty to sustain it. Now I want to end with this. Jesus gave a promise to this world, to a wearied world, to a world that grows tired of travail and struggle. He said, "Come unto me, ye that are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." But the counterfeit is this statue, which is the greatest idol in America. And it has an inscription that says, "Come unto me, all ye huddled masses, yearning to breathe free. I lift my lamp beside the golden door." This is the devil offering the ultimate in freedom to the world. He says, "I will enlighten you." But we as Christians should always remember, does this shock you that we would have this statue and the true meaning of it? Does it mean that I'm not an American? My friends, I spent 20 years in the U.S. Air Force. I'm proud of what we have in our country. Democracy is the best system that man has ever devised. It is also the best that the devil has ever come up with. Because the ultimate is that man has the freedom to do as he or she will. And it is the very motto of Satanism. Do as thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. And I think as Christians we should keep in mind always the one who truly illuminates, the true light. What is his name? Jesus. We should always keep that in mind. None of these things should dismay us. None of these things should frighten us, for how could they frighten us? because we have the great God, the light of the world, in our very hearts. God bless you. What a great conference I've had. Thank you so much.